Next up, I certainly would like to welcome to the stage Sudipto Sarkar. Sudipto is the Water Practice Manager for the East Asia Pacific region in Singapore of the World Bank. This is going to be a fantastic pitch, and Sudipto is going to be talking about the World Bank's global overview of programs and needs. Welcome to the stage.
Good morning, everybody, and thank you for inviting me to this session on Innovate for Water. My name is Sudipto Sarkar. I'm from the World Bank, and I'm the Water Practice Manager for the East Asia and the Pacific region, and I'm based in Singapore. Very quickly today, I would like to give a quick overview of what the World Bank does, why we should innovate, give you some examples along with some key takeaway points, and I will share some information resources that we have in the bank. Very broadly speaking, our strategy for water has three pillars. One is on sustaining water resources. That is to kind of make sure the resources are there for not only for today, but for tomorrow. Making sure it's adequate, making sure it's pollution-free. Second is delivering services. Delivering services not only for water supply and sanitation to urban areas and rural areas, but also for agricultural purposes, because water and food has this strong link. And the third pillar is really about building resilience. This is not only for impacts of climate change, but for pandemics like COVID-19 that we're currently facing. How can we make utilities and systems resilient so that they can handle pandemics? Very broadly speaking, we have about 192 projects worldwide. It's a current portfolio of around $30 billion. We are broken down by regions, and the region that I represent is the one in orange on the right, which has a portfolio of around $5 billion. And we have about 35 projects in our current portfolio. Worldwide, our portfolio is about 55% on water supply sanitation, around 30% on water resource management, and 11% for ag operations, irrigation operations. And the rest are linked to health and other water activities. So now the question is, why should we innovate? Of course, water, we know, is becoming dirtier, and the cost of pollution is high, especially if you look at the economic costs, the health costs. Water is also becoming scarcer in many parts of the world where they do not have adequate water, clean water, and unpredictable. Some areas you have too much water, some areas you have too little water. And the impact of climate change is something that we're constantly dealing with. But innovation also gives us the opportunity to address challenges on sector policies, institutions, and also on financing. I just wanted to quickly talk about the current response the bank has on COVID-19. Across the bank, we have a strategy on how to deal with the COVID-19. And what I've put up out there is really our response on the water side of things. I won't get into the details, but you can see the links between water and saving lives, water and protecting the poor and vulnerable, water, how it helps with the growth and job creation, and also the future, how can we rebuild better? All these elements have, all these activities have elements of innovation in it, and I think that's what we're trying to discuss today. As I said, we need to think of innovation so that we are able to deliver services in a better fashion. we have to address issues of water security and also look at ways to have increased coverage and improve the quality of services. Now, for today's presentation, I just picked 3 areas of innovation. We have many projects going on around the world, but I've picked areas on technology, areas on how you can design programs, and areas also of inclusion. Very quickly on technology, there are many things going on, but here are 2 ongoing operations that we have. One is on smart water management. This is for a utility. They're trying to operate the systems remotely as much as possible. Now, in some of the developed countries, this is common, but to kind of bring forward this technology in developing countries is something new. And this innovation will help in many ways when it comes to managing water, when it comes to water quality monitoring, looking at effective maintenance, etc. We have one good example in the China project in Liaoning province, but this is something that we can take elsewhere. The other example of innovation is on the knowledge platforms. When it comes to managing water resources, you have to look at having good information, sharing information. And this is one example that I've put forward where instead of looking at just the infrastructure, we focused on creating a knowledge platform. So the focus of this project is really on building the information base, getting information, analyzing information, and obviously technology is behind all this to make it successful. Innovations in program design. Very often we like to bring in the private sector, but the private sector cannot come because of financial constraints. They need subsidies. So this is one example of we're saying, okay, the private sector can come in through a concession contract and they would be assured some payments that would be essentially subsidy payments that would be over and above what the private sector collects from tariffs. But this gives the assurance to the private sector that they will be paid over time. But at the same time, through the private sector, you're bringing in technology, you're bringing in efficiency, and the private sector is selected on a competitive basis so that you get the best price in terms of the delivery of quality services. We also have these performance-based programs and also contracts. 2 quick examples. We have a program called the P4R, Program for Results, where the bank pays against results delivered. And we have 2 examples in Vietnam where payments from the bank are made upon the delivery of results, which could be increases in services or increase in the coverage. So we're not just paying for infrastructure, but we're looking for the final outcome of the results. I've put forward another example on a performance-based contracting where we have the private sector that gets paid based on a reduction of non-revenue water. So payments are linked to the reduction of losses. And we have a similar model like the hybrid annuity model, which we use in India, which is similar to the concession with subsidy. Moving on, we also have innovations in how we do inclusion. I've put forward 2 examples. One is a disability inclusive development. This is something we are doing currently in Indonesia. It's called PAMSIMAS program. It's a rural water supply project. DFAT is a partner to this, and this is a fantastic program where we are trying to reach more than 25,000 villages, and currently I think 17 million people have been served. But in 2017, we brought in, with DFAT support, the idea of including disability-related activities. Essentially, people with disabilities would have access to various infrastructure facilities. And this has picked up. It started in 2017, and we're trying to reach about 5,000 villages. We also have another example of promoting better hygiene, promoting better sanitation services in Vietnam. And if you go to the next slide, you'll see the example of how we have made a difference in 3 years. In 3 years, what we are seeing is through better campaigns on behavior change, we see hand washing has gone up from about 20% to 54%. And similarly, improved sanitation facilities have gone up from 52% to 77%, just through 3 years of kind of increased behavior change campaigns. I think, in summary, I would just say that to make these innovations sustainable, you need really broad-based stakeholder support and continuous support. We need champions to stay on course, and we have to constantly and proactively adapt the ideas of innovation. Thank you very much for inviting me to this session.
Sudipto, it is our great pleasure, and we recognise how early it is in Singapore. So once again, thank you for getting up so early and giving us an interesting pitch.